Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tech Tips Live. It is another beautiful late summer Thursday here in Goshen, Indiana. And as I think a lot of us are, we are working in various places these days, sometimes in our regular offices, sometimes from our home offices. And as you can see, I'm here at my home office. It's great to have you all join us. We're going to have a great session here today with Ian and myself. So let's get right into it. I hope everyone was able to get in okay. We have changed from WebEx to Ring Central. Ring Central is a derivative of Zoom, so if a lot of it looks familiar to some of the other meetings you've been having, that would be why. So check out the questions and answers. We will get to those at the end. And as always, we are recording this, and that recording will be posted probably tomorrow or by Monday on our website and on YouTube as well. So I will also remind you all that we have the fall season is posted, and we will have Tech Tips Live now until the end of the year through December. And you can see our topics on the website again. So Hertzler.com and Tech Tips Live. So Ian, you want to go ahead and click me over to the next slide?
There we go.
All right. Well, as I said, Ian Harris is joining me here today on Tech Tips Live. It is his first time doing this, and so welcome, Ian. Ian is one of our newest implementation specialists and is doing great work for us. He's a fast learner, and he's excited here to show you all a little bit about dashboards, what he's learned, and some of the things that he's already been able to do with some of our clients out in the field. So I've got just a short opening. Ian will spend some time, about 15, 20 minutes on dashboards, and then we'll have some time for questions and answers. So I've been using this slide here in a number of our TTLs lately. And today, last couple, we have focused over on the left-hand side of the devices we connect to, how users input, connecting to ERP and those types of systems with GainSeeker. Today, we're going the other way, and we're over here on the right-hand side and more with the visualizations and how do you make data-driven decisions? How do you get the data visible? And dashboards are a significant part of how we help clients get data visible. And we have continued to work at making dashboards flexible and responsive, and really a tool that all of you can use to take data that maybe used to be bottled up on the shop floor and now distributed up into the offices, both locally and on a corporate type of a level. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ian. Again, at any time during today's presentation, if you have a question, go ahead and type it into the Q&A section there, and if it works, we'll get right to it, or we'll get to those at the end. And Ian, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Thanks, I'd love to. All right, so I wanted to start off with kind of a quick review of dashboards, just to make sure that we're all oriented in the same direction. So starting with what a dashboard is, Phil already said it, but basically it provides you with an at-a-glance peek at the state of your system. It gives you key performance indicators about your process or about your part numbers. So in that way, it's kind of like the dashboard of a car. The idea is you can just look at it and immediately get information. Where it kind of starts to differ is that it's interactive and you can drill down into the data that's behind the controls on the dashboard. So if you want to know why is this chart showing you this, you can find out. How they work is with a combination of retrievals and controls. So the retrievals are the data that is displayed. They're essentially SQL queries. And the controls are the things that are displaying the data. So these are your grids and your tables and your charts, things like that. Retrievals are pretty important because they're basically the backbone of how the dashboards work. So as I said, they are the individual database queries. They are usually based on something like part number, process, and then some trace values like shift or plant or date and time. So you filter out the data that you don't need. Each of the controls on the dashboard use their own retrievals. So if you have two charts, they won't be able to see the data that each other is using. However, the retrievals can share filters. So back when I said you can filter based on things like shift and plant and date time, if you have a filter that filters everything out except for plant one's data, you can use that filter in multiple retrievals on your dashboard. This is important because if you end up changing one of those filters, it will change for every retrieval that's using it. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Ian, I know you get to it a little bit later, but you have this sub-bullet here about external data. Do you have some examples of what types of external data people are adding to dashboards?
To dashboard specifically, yeah, I mean, you can script your retrievals. So GainSeeker has built-in tools for doing retrievals, and that's using our GUI. Basically, you just use drop downs to select what you want to filter out. But with Python, you can script specific retrievals. So you can either reach out to other databases if you want to, or get information from a file. So for instance, if you have some kind of a machine that is spitting out Excel or CSV documents for some reason, you can use this external data tool to get the information in from that. And like I said, that requires a little bit of scripting, but it's not too bad.
Or for example, if you had an ERP system that had a value like percent shipped on time or something like that, you could pull that in and add that value to a dashboard along with like shop floor quality data, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. All right.
Exactly. So now I want to look at a couple of things that are relatively new, at least since the last time we did a video about dashboards. So this one actually may have been in the last one. It was introduced in 8.9, I believe. And if you've been using a version of GainSeeker that is either 8.9 or newer, you've already seen this. We just added a whole bunch of date periods to make it easier to, select basically human readable times. So yesterday or last Thursday. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I won't spend too long on it because I want to talk about a cool one, which is the defect trend wizard. So this is a really simple control to use. Its icon is in the top right of the slide there. It's the bar graph with the arrow. And basically what it does is it lets you select a time period and use that time period and the defects you got then as a baseline, and then select a different time period and compare it to that. And so this lets you see what your trend is with regards to defects over time. So for example, in this image, our baseline is week 4 in 2012, because this is old data, and we're measuring week 5 against that. So it's a neat little tool. So now I want to get to the really cool stuff, which has a really exciting title slide. So give me 1 second here. So basically, these are more advanced dashboard features. They're not really hard to implement, but they do greatly enhance how the dashboards fit into your normal workflow, because that's sort of the goal here. Is you don't want to be too disruptive, but you still want to get all of the information that you need. So there's a lot of utility, and they're mostly fairly simple. Although I will kind of immediately contradict that with the first point. So Python controls. Python is as complicated as you make it. That's one of the things that's nice about it. If you just want to do some simple math, it'll do it for you, but you can also do things like create a Google Charts web page on the dashboard. Google has an API for that, so you can use Python, use our built-in database controls in Python to get retrievals out, throw them into Google Charts if you want. We have several customers doing that, and we also have several using custom HTML pages. I said HTML instead of web because this doesn't necessarily mean like web pages that are out there on the internet, but custom HTML pages, just a way of displaying information. So for example, we have at least one customer who's using it to read out real-time values from an OPC server. Which is not normally how you would use it, but you can do that, which is pretty cool. As far as automation goes, There are multiple ways to automate using dashboards. Basically, in this case, I just mean less work for your end user. That's what automation means. So whoever the target is, if it's your shift supervisor or your plant manager or your RQM or whatever, you want them to have to do as little work as possible to actually get to the data and get to the information that the data is going to tell you. So this includes things like launching dashboards from icons instead of having to go in through charts and figure out where it is, and then using the command line to automatically log in as a specific user or to automatically pull up a specific dashboard, that sort of thing. And one of the coolest things that a dashboard can do is starting inspections, which I will show you. So you
All
can
right.
set
Hey,
up.
Ian.
Oh,
Ian,
yes.
before you get into that, I want to go back to launching dashboards from icons.
Yeah.
So again, just to reiterate, what you're saying is like, again, a lot of our people on our call here are quality managers, specialists on the quality team, and they've got an operations person, or maybe the plant manager, or maybe their division manager who says, I want to see X report every day, or I want to be able to pull this up at any time. What you're saying here is with an icon command line, they can set that up so that there's an icon on that person's desktop that they click, it goes into GainSeeker, it opens up the dashboard, displays the information they have, and with the time periods that you just showed us on the previous slide, say it goes back for the last week or the last day or whatever. So again, like you said, whoever you want to make it easier for, and sometimes it's, how can you make your boss look good? That's one of those ways you can do it. Is that an accurate description?
It is. Thank you.
All right.
And in fact, I will go through how to do that after we get through the slide bit.
Cool. All right. I'll stop talking.
It's all good. So then there's also inspections. The inspections, the ability to start an inspection from a dashboard is really, really useful for, again, this is going to be for your like plant managers or shift supervisors who are supposed to be looking at the dashboard to get information about what's going on, but also doing regular checks every 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever. This will let you mentally tie the act of doing the check to the data because they exist right next to each other. And you'll see exactly what that looks like. And again, this is one of those things where you can send command line arguments to specify lots of things like shift and machine, which I will also show an example of. So a couple of common questions that we get about dashboards, at least as far as support goes, is it possible to change a date range that's already been set? So if you build a dashboard and you've designed it to look at the previous month, can you open the same dashboard but change that date range without actually redesigning the whole dashboard? And then something that occasionally goes along with this is how do you set, edit, create, and delete permissions? Because sometimes you obviously don't want people modifying the dashboards. So I will go over that as well. And in fact, I will do that part first. So the permissions for the dashboard, I hope everybody can still see my desktop here. I'm assuming they can.
Yep, we're good.
All right. So all those things are set here in system administration. So I'm currently logged in as Tour Foods Lab down here. So if I look in Tour Foods Lab, I can see that my role is full rights copy. So it's a copy of the full rights role. So that's right here. So the rights for the dashboard are going to be in change, edit rights. And then there are two that are important for now. One of them is this dashboard or dynamic reports before viewing. This is what will allow a user to change the date period, basically. So if this is set to a plus, they can. If it's set to deny, they won't be able to. And then for locked items, if you want to prevent anybody from changing a dashboard, the way you do that is you lock the dashboard. What's important about this is anybody who has permission to edit locked items will still be able to lock it. So if you want to make sure that a specific user, let's say the full rights copy role, can't change that, you want to make sure it says deny right there. Otherwise, even if you lock it, they'll be able to. Okay, so 1 second here. Oh, and I was going to do .launch, wasn't I? So let's do that. Phil, you asked about doing the shortcuts, so I'll go ahead and show that. We use a utility called .launch to do that. It's in the gain seeker folder, so program files x86, then Hertzler systems, gain seeker, and then dtlaunch.exe is what you're looking for. And as you can see, there are already some icons in here. So one of the nice things about making these shortcuts is they're fairly simple. It's file, new gain seeker item. And gain seeker is a bunch of applications, all of the applications that you've seen over here, and then a few others. So we just need to pick the right one. In this case, it's charts. And our startup action is going to be opening a dashboard. You can do some other things like change the database you're using or set a specific configuration or a login. I'll just go ahead and use this one. And then really the only thing you have to do is select which dashboard you're going to use. So for instance, I'll do this one, Enterprise OEE. And I'll change this to TTL demo here, just so that it's easy for me to see. And there it is. So immediately from within here, if you just double click that, it'll automatically open the correct dashboard for you, which is really nice. And of course, making this accessible to somebody else is as simple as right click, send to desktop, give it a name, and there it is. And it'll work exactly like it did before. So that is how you do that. And actually this works out nicely because this is the first dashboard I wanted to talk about. I mentioned that one of the really powerful things about dashboards is that you can drill down into the data that it's showing you. So it's not just the heads up display. Any of the controls you can basically interact with. So, you know, if you want to interact with this dial gauge, you can right click on it and view the data. And if you do that, it'll bring up a table of all of the data that went into making that control. And so in this case, it's 1,800 records worth of data. And again, pardon the year, I know that it's 2013. It's our tour data set that I'm working with. But you don't have to do that. You can also chart it. So I could chart this as, I could do like a Pareto chart if I wanted to. And again, it has all of the same powerful features that GainSeeker charts do, because that's what it is. It's just opening GainSeeker charts. So I can do the drill down wizard if I want to have GainSeeker automatically find significant things for me and then rechart, and there we are. So this is where this gets to be really useful for your RQMs and your quality managers, because they actually need to be able to drill down into this data. And then of course this is OEE, so I might as well show a combined OEE chart because OEE is always popular. So let's see.
Ian, what you're saying is these dashboards, they're not just pretty pictures. It's an active living picture that you click on it, you drill down into it, and you've got the data behind it. And at that point, you've got an ability to do all of our analysis on that raw data back behind that, right?
That's absolutely correct. They're not just pretty pictures. They are pretty functional pictures. But you can also make it just data if you want to. So we'll look at this one, process and output metrics. So this is another kind of dashboard control that you can make. It's just a grid. It's showing you the mean CPK and failure count over a time period for each part. And just like the last one, it's interactive. So if you click on one of the calculated values, you can view the raw data that went into making that value. What's really cool about this control is you can also just view the failure data. So if you just want to see what failures it's referring to when it says there were 7 failures, there it is. So it's nice to be able to filter that out right away. And of course, charts, because those are always popular. Once again, this is just another version of our normal charting system. So you can still run the variation wizard and chart based on what it finds. So we still have all those powerful tools in there. And this one actually gives me a good opportunity to show the answer to the how do you edit the date range. So I'm going to edit something else. This is line 1 process and output, and I want to look for line 2. So if you click Edit Open down there and you select the retrieval that you want, in this case, we've only got the one, you can change the date period if you want. This one set default load to today. I'm just going to leave that, but I will change the filter. Why not? We'll look at line 2. And now you'll see that I pulled up the same dashboard, but it's got different data on it because we're looking at a different production line. So let's see here real quick.
While you're here, Ian, and have these charts to Sparkline up, I do have a question from Anthony on how do you create the Sparkline?
How do you create the, oh, okay. So this is the control in here, and it's in the table settings. So let me back out and do that again so that we can see how I got from here to the edit. So right click basically anywhere and say design dashboard, and it's going to bring up the dashboard. And you can see the control right here. If you click on the control, it'll say grid, and down here under data, there's content and design data. You can ignore design for the moment, but you click on this little ellipsis next to table settings, and right here are the columns. And these columns are what's going to appear in that table. So Sparkline is just one of the columns that you can pick. If you say add column and then go to cell display, it is right there. So that's how you add that. And then obviously this has all of the properties of each of the columns. And I'll go ahead and cancel so I don't end up accidentally adding 2 of them.
Okay, so when you're doing the grid display in the properties, what are the different rows of the grid, or really the columns, excuse me, of the grid?
Like what can they be?
No, that I was saying, I was kind of repeating where you had gone with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so this is it's just a top to bottom version of the columns, and they're going to be displayed in that order. So if I move the Sparkline up before mean, the Sparkline would obviously be displayed before mean. One other cool thing actually I can show while I'm in here is the summary. So if you click on a column, you can decide that you want a summary of it. I think with mean, that's going to be kind of useless, but with CPK, you can say find the average and the max and the min. I'm just holding down control as I select the different values here. And I'll say okay. I will save changes and display. And now what you'll notice is that at the bottom, under the CPK column, I have an average CPK and a max and a min. So I'm glad you brought that up because I completely forgot about that.
All right.
But okay, I want to get to one of the coolest one here, let's be honest, which is this cookie factory data entry one. So this is obviously one of the more advanced dashboard setups that we have. But as you can imagine, the point of this is it's supposed to be easy for the shift supervisor or plant manager, again, to basically people who are normally busy, but they need to have direct access to the data. This is an example of using the control placement to tie data to the physical location, because we're really good at remembering physical locations, better at that than we are at remembering data. So for instance, if I want to view what line 1 is doing, instead of looking through a list, I can just go, here's line 1, let's look at the charts. And it'll pull up the charts for however far back. And once again, unsurprising, this is just the standard gain seeker charting system. So you can expand the charts, you can still run the variation wizard and still get meaningful insights out of it. Again, one of the cool things about this is it's directly tied into the charting, so you don't lose any functionality really. But this button here is what's neat about this. So if you click this enter data button, you'll notice that it does a couple of things. One, it opens an inspection, and 2, it pre-populates this. So we know that this is line 1. So I've told the dashboard to just send line 1 into the inspection. And the goal is to make it as painless as possible for the people who need to do the data entry. So every one thing they don't have to do is one more reason for them to actually put the data in when it's supposed to happen. So being able to send that information in automatically is huge. And so this is something that requires a couple of steps, but I want to show you what they are because they're not actually that complicated. It's a fairly simple thing to do. So the first one here is when you have a button. So I'm in the design view again. If you click on the button and go to the behavior part, there's a click action. And if you click on this ellipsis, you can select an action item, basically say what's going to happen when someone clicks the button. And I've picked run an inspection right in the middle here. And then you just have to select the inspection. And once you've done that, you can say okay, and that's basically all you have to do. It will just open the inspection. But I went a little fancy, and I wanted to automatically populate the line. So I sent this in. It's a key value pair on the command line. So the key is the word line. There's an equal sign, and then what I want that value to be. In this case, it's line 1. So the way that the inspection is going to interpret this is with Python. So I said there's a little tiny bit of Python in here, and this is it. So this uses the cookie data entry bit. I'll just really quickly go over what this is because it's only 3 lines of code. It's very fast. It just looks at the command line using our command args object, and it tries to find the value associated with line. If it finds it, then it populates the line traceability field there.
All right. Hey, we're running out of time here, Ian. So great stuff. Anything else you wanted to show here before we wrap up?
The only other thing I can think of is this. These buttons are context sensitive, so you notice they're red. It just means that nothing's been entered into the system. I have no idea what number this is supposed to be. Not that one. Okay. But once I've closed that, you'll notice the button turns green. So this is how your supervisors would be able to see whether or not some tests had been entered on time.
Gotcha. So there's some logic behind that button of getting timely readings, red and green, red, time for a reading, and such.
Exactly. Yep.
Great. All right. Any other questions from anyone? We are running up against our time. Ian has shown us a lot of great stuff. Hopefully you all have learned a few things, or it's at least expanded your dashboard knowledge, and made it just a little bit less intimidating to get in there and dig around with some of the features in dashboards. Ian and Chris and Charles are also always available, and if you have questions, that is part of maintenance and getting support. We can answer those questions. We're not going to create dashboards for you on that, but we'll definitely answer questions as you do it. And oftentimes when we come out and do tune-ups and other projects like that, we're often helping people do some new dashboards and get those new visualizations out there.
Yep, absolutely. And if you have any questions, obviously, just let us know. We really like working on these because they can get really cool.
Yes, there are a lot of, we so love when our clients show us stuff that new ways to do things that we'd never thought of. You guys are all so creative, and that is fantastic. You want to just pop our slides up there real quick again, Ian?
I would love to.
All right.
So why don't I go to the right one?
Go to the end.
There we go.
All right, one more. We're pretty much out of time here. So September 17th is our next Tech Tips Live, and we're going to be talking about short run or process capability. One of the things that we are seeing in kind of the manufacturing world these days is a lot of interest in IoT. And what IoT means is a lot of process data. And short run is kind of a misnomer, but short run and process data can be very useful as we have more and more IoT and connected devices, and trying to manage, what is all that data that's coming at us. So that's a little bit some of what we'll be investigating next time around. or if some of the rest of you have some other questions about short run, even in the meantime, please email me and we'll try and get that on the agenda. So we'll have this recording up here shortly. Don't think I have any other questions. Ian, anything else you want to add or say today?
No, just thanks everyone for showing up.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I hope the Ring Central experience was good for you. I know it looks like we got everybody on the call that I expected, so that was good. Tells me hopefully nobody had any trouble getting on, fingers crossed, with a new platform. But great to spend a little bit of time with you here all today, and we will catch you again next month. Thank you all so much for joining us.